So I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today on today's webinar, Coaching, How to Supervise Using Best Practices. We're going to try to mix that up for you a little bit today with some videos and a lot of participation. So we'll be flipping around to different screens. So if there is a little bit of a delay in making those transitions, I do ask for your patience with that. A couple housekeeping items. Lines have been muted upon entry, but we still, as a safety precaution, suggest that you go ahead and mute your lines. As mentioned, there will be a lot of participation today. You can do that in the chat box. I will try to monitor that chat box closely should there be some technical issues and try to help you support those as well. So I believe that's all for our housekeeping, and I will turn this over to Ree and let her introduce herself and get started.
All right, thank you everybody for joining today. My name is Ree Evans. I am the statewide targeted prevention coordinator here for the Division of Developmental Disabilities. A little bit of background about myself and experience with supervision and coaching. I've been in a supervisory or coach role for the past, more than 15 years in many applied settings. So I have been a manager of retail stores. I have worked at Fulton State Hospital as a supervisor and a coach, and then now statewide coaching one of the largest teams that we have in the division. One thing that I have learned is that the most effective way to supervise is really the same no matter what setting you find yourself in. And supervisors are often hired into their role with little to no training or guidance on how to supervise or coach. They're left to figure out kind of as you go what works, what doesn't work, and most of the time supervisors end up dealing with problems as they arise rather than taking a proactive approach. And so today I'm just going to talk with you guys and walk you through a more effective way to provide supervision. So the first question today, if you could just drop in the chat box how long you have been in a supervisor-mentor role if you are a supervisor. If you're not, then just put you're not. And then also kind of what your role is. Are you a behavior analyst? Are you a support coordinator? Just give me a little bit of background so I know how to direct the presentation today. All right, so it looks like we have a lot of people within the 5 to 10 year range of providing supervision with a wide variety of roles. So we have some BCBAs present, some behavior support specialists, quality assurance folks, some directors, then some that are mentors to others. So you might not be providing direct supervision, but you are in a mentor role. So welcome, and I'm glad that we have such a diverse audience today. So there is so much that goes into what it means to be an effective supervisor. There are so many books available out on the market. Today is just going to be a brief introduction into a synopsis of what effective supervision is. And good supervision requires that a supervisor know how and when to give feedback, so they really are coaches for their staff. So I'm going to talk a lot about coaching, and coaching, when I speak of that, is supervision. So you're going to learn what coaching is, identify who should be a coach, recognize when and how to provide supervision via coaching. So again, if in the chat box you could just let me know what you think coaching is. All right, so we have a good variety of answers. A lot of you are saying it's a tool to help the supervisor. It's a way to help the individual know what they need to do to increase their skills, direct teaching modeling. That's a very good answer. A way to guide and help others be successful in their new role. All right, so what is coaching all about? Coaching is about providing guidance and teaching to grow skills staff need to be successful. It is not punishing staff for doing something wrong. A coach is someone who gives instruction to train or tutor or provide feedback and let the person know what it is you want them to do. It should be about focusing on what they did right and, when necessary, how they can do better. These are several different coaching strategies that you can feel free to look up on your own time. There's a wide variety out there. This training is going to focus on strategies of observing, connecting to goals, role play, performance feedback, and monitoring. We have a previous webinar that just came out a couple weeks ago by Melantha Witherspoon about problem solving. So you can check that out if you're interested in that. We also have an action planning webinar that's previously recorded, which goes over goal setting. And then for our tiered agency staff that are here, we will be having a webinar at the end of the month that will go over positive and negative data collection for further observation guidance. Again, in the chat box, if you could let me know who you think should be a coach. All right, again, you guys are giving some excellent answers. So a lot of people are saying those that are competent, possess leadership skills, who have experience, and can give effective expertise. So I think that supervisors should be those that are in a mentorship or consultant role. So someone who has that expertise, the knowledge, the leadership skills, and the ability to follow through with their feedback. So anyone that is in a supervisor or mentor role can be a coach, but you can also have peer-to-peer coaching as well. So that's where you would fall into the mentor role. If you have a really strong peer, they can kind of help guide you and teach you how to do things better. If you're a behavior analyst, you should be coaching agency staff and your RBTs or family members, caregivers, on how to implement your plans. If you are a house supervisor, you should be providing coaching to your direct support professionals. If you're a mid-level supervisor, you're going to be giving coaching to those house managers. If you're a professional manager or program manager, then you would be in an admin role providing coaching or supervision to those mid-level supervisors. So why, in your own words, do you think you should approach supervision from a coaching perspective? Again, in the chat box, please. You guys are awesome. These are amazing answers. I think my favorite one on here is someone mentioned so that your staff aren't dependent on you always. You're teaching them a skill so that they can then be successful in whatever it is you're trying to teach them to do, rather than coming to you for an answer all of the time for you to do it for them. So why I think you should coach when you're giving supervision is teaching your staff what to do. It promotes teaching. Change is only effective if we make sure that everybody is doing the same thing with fidelity, so everyone's doing the same thing every time. Coaches need to work with their staff to provide support so that whatever it is you're trying to get done at your agency or in the home or wherever it is you're working gets the outcomes and results that you want. And then environments that are supportive and conducive to learning are much more effective than coercive environments. So you want to make supervision and coaching a positive experience for your staff. We shouldn't just be requiring that they show us the skill or step in a role play, but we should strive that they engage in whatever skill it is with us by not only asking for a script, because that just treats them like a robot. We want to treat them like professionals. We should really understand what it is that we want to share with them and be highly skilled at finding precise and easy to understand explanations for whatever practice we're having them do. So we've covered what coaching is, who should coach, why you should coach. Let me know in the chat box when you think you should coach. So a lot of you guys are saying all of the time, which is the correct answer. So you want to be coaching all of the time. At the bare minimum, you should be coaching weekly. Conversations should also include coaching and supervision. You can walk through a sort of role play via conversation. Supervisors really need to know what it is their supervisees are doing and that it's being done well and consistently. If you're only meeting with your supervisee once a month or when problems arise, then you don't really have a good picture of what's going on, and your staff really doesn't know whether what they're doing is right or wrong. So it means that almost all staff duties should be regularly observed and the quality of performance measured. Observing or evaluating more frequently and making sure you give encouraging and positive feedback will result in better performance and make the observation and the coaching less aversive. If it's done infrequently again or when problems arise, coaching will be aversive not only for your staff but for you. It'll be something that you dread having to do. So it helps with setting the stage to set the stage for staff to learn what skill it is that we hope they will perform. This means that we tell staff exactly what it is they should do. We utilize up-to-date evidence-based training techniques, and we foster an environment where observation and supervision are things supervisees look forward to rather than something they avoid or dread. Go ahead in the chat box and drop a line about what you think makes a good employee. You guys are rocking it. You guys are giving such positive, constructive definitions of what you think makes a good employee. Nobody put that a good employee is someone who isn't late or doesn't call in or isn't coercive. So you gave clear expectations of what you think a good employee is, which is very important. You want to make sure you are describing things to your staff in to-do language rather than not to do. So saying come ready to work on time rather than don't be late. And it's much more effective to teach people that way than to teach them what not to do, because what not to do is not specific. And, saying don't come in late could turn into they don't come in at all. So real briefly, if you're a behavior analyst or if you've been working with me at all or with tiered supports, then you should know that behavioral skills training is the most supported and effective training technique in regard to teaching skills and providing supervision to your staff. And that's what we're going to keep talking about for a little bit today. So in case you haven't heard of why we should use BST, I'm going to cover that real briefly. So after we figure out what we want staff to do, we need to effectively teach them how to do it, and BST is the way we can do that. It involves first providing instruction. It could be verbal, written, video, whatever, along with a rationale of why the skill is important for the staff to do. Then you show them how to do the skill. After that, you'll have them practice the skill with you, and then you'll give them feedback on what they did well or what they can do to improve on the skill. And then the important thing here is you're going to keep repeating this. So if you're teaching someone to brush their teeth, you might only have to go through this until they master that skill, and then you don't have to do it anymore. However, with supervision, for the skill to maintain, you're going to need to be doing BST, providing that constant feedback in order for your staff to maintain whatever skill it is you want them to be doing. You can use the BST with individuals supported. You can use it with staff. You can use it with parents, guardians, your husband, whoever. And so with instruction, you want to tell the person what the skill is, how to do it, why it's important, and when they should and should not use the skill. A lesson plan is very helpful here. So if you have a lesson plan or a checklist or something for your staff to follow. An example I'm going to use the tools of choice example if you, for what instruction would be. So for stay close, you would tell the person, what is stay close? Well, stay close is a skill taught in tools of choice to help you have meaningful moments with people. You would need to include how to notice the emotion of another person, how to say an empathy statement, how to make sure they don't have RBF, that they are having appropriate facial expressions, and how to ask open-ended questions. The why or rationale for using stay close is that it builds and strengthens relationships. People feel connected, they feel heard, and then you want to tell them that they should use the skill during everyday moments when the person is performing desired or neutral behavior. For modeling, you could show the person how to do the skill by video, by computerized animation, virtual reality, picture sequence. However, I really recommend, and the research really recommends, that modeling be done in the natural setting as well. So for stay close, cool example, you could model saying some empathy statements with appropriate facial expressions to someone else. So for example, like, hey, Joe, you look like you're on cloud 9 today. You must be feeling great. So practice can be done either in the natural setting or in real-time moments where the situation or skill should be used, or via role play, which is, for those that don't know what role play is, it's a practicing situation that simulates the natural situation. The supervisor should record on a data sheet correct and incorrect responding during this step. So for, again, following the stay close, cool example, the staff member would practice using the stay close skill with Joe while the supervisor observes and takes notes. And then for feedback, the supervisor should provide positive praise for correct responding, and before they practice the next time, if corrective feedback is necessary, they wouldn't do that in the moment. They would do it before the staff member could perform that skill again. And we'll talk about that more in a few slides. So following a stay close, cool example, again, for feedback, when you told Joe he looked like he was on cloud 9, that was such great use of empathy. And then you would give staff, hopefully, some sort of positive consequence, whether it's a brag card, staff bucks, a high five, whatever it is that you think your staff member would perceive as a good thing. Or if corrective feedback is necessary, then you could say, okay, let's practice again. This time, when Joe is smiling and looking you in the eye, try to use some empathy, and then go through the BST cycle again, and staff would practice and you'd give them feedback again. So this is a cute video that really demonstrates the importance of modeling and giving clear instructions. So we're going to watch this together for a minute.
Might have a little ad moment.
We might have an ad.
You're not making any sense. Sorry, you ruined it on purpose.
You know what? I'm hungry. I could really go for a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Do you guys think you can write down some instructions and teach me how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich?
Yeah. I'm done.
Step 1. Get 2 pieces of bread out. Got 'em. Get a butter knife and get some PB. Take 1 piece of bread, spread it around with the butter knife.
No, Dad, with the peanut butter.
I'm just doing what it says. It says take 1 piece of bread, spread it around with the butter knife.
Hold on.
Get some jelly, rub it on the other half of the bread.
No, Dad, open the jelly.
It doesn't say to do that. Put the breads together on top of each other. Take a big bite. This doesn't taste like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Fail.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry, I had to I had to make it extremely specific.
Oh, good. I'm starving. Take 2 pieces of white bread out of the bag. Take the lid off the jar of peanut butter. Get a butter knife and stick it inside of the peanut butter jar. With the knife, scoop a bit of peanut butter out of the...
That means like a lot.
A bit means a lot?
In my world.
All right. There we go.
Doing better than before, though.
Open the jelly jar. Squeeze it onto the other piece of bread.
No.
Done. Closer. Get 2 pieces of bread. Get some peanut butter. Take the peanut butter knife. Open the peanut butter. Put the knife in the PB. Get some jelly. Open the jelly.
No.
Squirt the jelly onto the bread. Take the butter knife with the peanut butter on it. Wipe it all over the piece of bread that's blank. Take the butter knife, rub the jelly all over the piece of bread.
Oh, he's doing better.
That's all over. Put the 2 pieces on top of each other.
This is how I'm meant.
Take 2 pieces of white bread out of the bag. Take the lid off the jar of peanut butter. Get a butter knife and stick it inside of the peanut butter jar. With the knife, scoop some of the peanut butter out of the inside of the jar. Spread your scoop of peanut butter onto one of your pieces of bread with a knife.
No.
Squeeze some jelly onto the other piece of bread. Spread the jelly on the bread with the butter knife. Put your 2 pieces of bread, peanut butter and jelly sides together. Done.
Okay, so this is one of my favorite videos to show when I talk about giving clear instructions because it's adorable. And also, if you're doing this training similar to this in person, you can use this as an activity with staff. Bring in some bread and peanut butter and jelly and kind of have them create a list. And then you all have some yummy, hopefully, sandwiches that you can eat by the end of your activity. So now that we've covered the basics regarding teaching strategies, we're going to talk about what it means to really create a culture of observation and supervision. So in the chat box, if you could type out whether you, yes or no, think that you should secretly observe staff behavior, so kind of be a fly on the wall. All right, so we have a lot of mixed answers. A lot of people are saying yes because they want to know if they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. However, staff really should know when supervision is happening and when coaching will occur, when they're going to be observed. We don't want to be flies on the wall. Supervision, when done in secret, only fosters fear and paranoia. So you want to be upfront with your staff. It should be positive. It should be happening frequently, not only after there's a problem or when you need to reprimand staff. Supervision should be equated to developing as a staff person, and staff should again know when they will be supervised and should be coached all of the time. So in schools, to kind of combat this coercive environment, they have developed a program called #ObserveMe, where teachers will put signs on their door inviting observation and feedback. So you should tell staff ahead of time you're going to observe them, what you hope to see, and you could even turn the tables and ask your staff to give you feedback and observe you. Most of the time we stop at training and we think that skills are going to maintain or just happen automatically and forever after they're taught. That does not work. Effective organizations, effective systems have effective supervision and positive supervision. So if you want a happy organization or a happy system, you're going to have positive supervision where your staff know that they're being observed. So this is a handy guide for the basics that you need to be working on to help create a positive supervisory experience. So you want to give in-the-moment feedback, and when doing so, you're going to tell the person you'll be observing them. You'll observe and take notes on their performance. You'll give them feedback immediately after the observation. If you're giving that feedback immediately after, it needs to be positive feedback. You want to encourage staff to notice their own performance, look at specific things about what it is they did, connect it to goals not only for your organization or for your behavior support plan or whatever it is you're wanting them to do, but also their own personal goals. So that requires that you stay close with your staff and you learn what it is valuable to them. You want to use data to kind of look at key points of feedback, make it easy to understand. So don't use big terminology, just talk to them like a real person, like you would anybody, and really connect it to positive consequences, so good things that could happen for that staff. So you want to tell the person you're observing them. You want to be open about when observation is occurring to, again, help build that positive and open culture, especially when observation is typically followed by positive feedback. You're going to be able to shift a culture of fear and paranoia in regard to supervision into a happy culture, which is really something that is hard to do, because when we think of supervision, we often think of, getting called to the principal's office or getting called to your boss's office. And how many people get an email from their boss where it says, I need to talk to you, and you're like, oh crap, what did I do? What did I do wrong? So we're trying to really shift that mindset into supervision being a positive thing, not just a trap we spring on them. So when I talk about observe, I mean you should be looking at what you see, so something that's measurable and defined prior to the observation. You want to focus on just what that particular staff member is doing right now, not what they did a week ago, and not what you typically see other staff members do. You want to take notes. You could use a checklist or some sort of way or system that you have that lets you keep track of what it is you're seeing. And then time is also important here, so you want to keep track of how long your observation lasts and what day it occurs. So when you deliver feedback immediately, it needs to be positive feedback. That will hopefully help reinforce whatever desirable behavior you observed. If you're giving corrective feedback, then I say as soon as possible after the observation, before the behavior can happen again. So feedback is much more likely to make an impact if it's delivered immediately. It helps the staff person connect what they just did to good things if you're giving them praise, and the opportunity to repeat mistakes. So if you don't give feedback immediately or as soon as possible, then they're more likely to repeat that mistake, and when that happens, that mistake is more likely to be repeated over and over and over. Positive feedback can kind of help them see what it is they're doing right. So you want to notice specific things about the staff person's behavior. Instead of saying, I've noticed that staff have been blah, 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 you want to say, I saw you just do blah, 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 blah. So you could say, you were so well prepared and knowledgeable when talking in that meeting, right on, rather than saying, that was good. So again, in the chat box, if you could let me know yes or no, should you provide positive and corrective feedback at the same time? So we have a lot of mixed answers again, saying yes or no. So I'm going to say that you should avoid mixing feedback. Don't use the sandwich method. If you're giving positive and corrective feedback at the same time, that's the sandwich method of feedback. And when you give that corrective, it automatically cancels out whatever positive comes before or after it. It confuses your staff person. If I say, like, you were so well prepared for that meeting, it went wonderful, but what you really should be saying is yada, yada, yada. The staff member is just going to hear that last part where you're telling them what they should have done instead of what they did well. And most of the time when we mix feedback, when we use that sandwich method, it's not to make the experience better for our supervisee, it's to make it feel better for us as the supervisor. Someone asks, what if you say and? It's still going to confuse the person. It's still going to negate whatever it was you said. That's why it's really, really important to give feedback frequently. In doing so, you hopefully have given enough positive feedback to outweigh the few times corrective feedback is necessary. If you don't have that healthy positive-negative ratio, you want to make sure that you find something that the person did well and only give the positive feedback unless, I'm going to preface this, unless it's a safety concern. So if staff left the oven on, or they used the wrong lifting technique, or there was a med pass error, something that's a serious behavior that if the staff did it again before you have time to correct them could cause harm to somebody, then you're going to want to jump in and just give the corrective feedback no matter what. But you want to find something that they did well and only give the positive feedback. Then later on, before the behavior needing correcting can occur again, you would give the staff an opportunity to practice and use BST to retrain. And then you want to praise when they perform the skill correctly. So for those of you that are familiar with tools of choice, I want you to think about how tools is effective with everybody, not just with interactions with individuals supported. So you want to be using tools, having meaningful, positive interactions with your staff all of the time. And if you do have to have that corrective statement, kind of treat it like a set expectations moment that happens later, but before the behavior can happen again, rather than in the moment. So with positive feedback, we're going to focus on what went right. We're going to be specific about what it is that went right. By doing so, you're going to increase the chance that they'll do whatever it is again in the future. It also makes the process of being supervised on the job a more enjoyable and rewarding experience. It strengthens your relationship with the person and increases the chance that they'll seek you out for supervision in the future instead of avoiding you. Telling somebody what they did wrong after the observation may reduce the chance they'll do it wrong next time, but it doesn't tell them what they should have done instead, and it will likely hurt your relationship with them. So when giving corrective feedback, you want to specify what you want to see, and you should include modeling, practice, and feedback. So an example of a missed opportunity would be, I noticed you were really quiet when George was cleaning his room. Let's practice telling George how much you appreciate when he picks trash up off the floor, rather than you forgot to praise George for picking up the trash. It should be phrased in a way that specifies what you want to see. So you could say, I noticed you were talking to Johnny and you told him to snap out of his funk. This time I want you to put yourself in Johnny's shoes and then say an empathy statement. Let's practice. Don't say, you were just coercive to Johnny, I want you to stop being coercive. You should include modeling of the desired skills, practice, and then immediate feedback after the practice. And then you also want to look for the next opportunity to catch the staff doing it the right way in the natural setting. So the right way would be the way you just told them, and then reinforce it. So provide some sort of positive consequence that needs to happen shortly after the corrective feedback was given. So when you connect to goals, you want to make sure that you're connecting not just to your personal goals as a supervisor or your agency's goals or your goals for your behavior support plan or individual supported. You want to connect it to the individual staff person's goals as well. You want to discuss how their performance moves them toward that goal as well as represents the bigger picture, the agency's goal. You want to provide encouragement to keep it up. And this also helps put their performance into that bigger context, which might help reduce the chance of burnout and frustration. So you want to make it easy to understand by using data, keep track using a checklist during your observation, and be specific. So don't use fancy terms, don't use poetic metaphors when you're giving feedback. So for checklist, an example of a stay close checklist would be, step 1, move within arm's reach. Step 2, have relaxed body language. Step 3, relaxed facial expression, and so on. You also want to be sure that you're using the data, so don't just throw the data away after your observation and your feedback is given. You want to enter your data into Excel or Word or whatever system, TheraApp, whatever you're using to track data. You want to enter that to display progress over time. You can look at trends or changes in performance to determine how effective your supervision is. And remember, you want to keep your data objective, so just the facts, just what you saw. So now we are going to practice. I want you guys to watch this video, and while you're watching, take notes, and then at the end of the video, type in the chat box what you would say to Mike for feedback regarding his interaction with Terry.
Hey, Terry. Good to see you. Hi. What are you doing here?
I'm waiting for my ride.
Oh, where are you riding to?
Work.
Work. That's awesome.
Yep.
Work.
Yep.
You make money?
I make lots of money.
Fantastic. People work hard, they really get along well in life. And you have some money. It's cool.
Yep.
Yep. Sure is.
Yep.
All right, that was a real short video. Let's go ahead and enter what kind of feedback you would give to Mike regarding his interaction with Terry, and type that into the chat box, please. All right, so we have a lot of mixed answers. We have some folks that are just saying good job, and we have some folks that are saying rubbing Terry's back is like a no-no. However, I forgot to mention that I put this checklist here for you on the side of the video, as these are things that Mike should be doing. And so when giving feedback, that's what you should be seeing Mike do during the observation. And so you should really did all of those steps. So my feedback to him in the moment would be, hey, Mike, you did such a great job using stay close. You moved, you moved close to Terry. You sat next to her. You touched her back. You smiled. Used open-ended questions several times, and you used encouragement by tying her making money into, being able to buy something she's been wanting. So we're going to practice one more time, and this time on the checklist on the side is what you're looking for from staff. So you're looking for staff to avoid reacting to junk behavior, which would be like minor annoying behavior. That's a pet peeve for those of you that are not familiar with tools. You're looking for staff to actively attend to something desirable, so something good that the person is doing in the moment, or something neutral in the environment or with the individual. And then you're looking for staff to give their attention back to the person within 10 seconds, and then repeating and staying cool, so not reacting and avoiding coercion. So again, take notes during the video, and at the end, pop whatever feedback you would give to the staff into the chat box.
All right, Dee, it's time to turn off the TV and get our chores.
I don't want to do them. I don't like chores.
Okay?
I don't want to do
I don't
chores.
care if you don't like chores.
I don't like chores. I don't like them.
Well, I'm going to turn the TV off. We have to get the towels folded.
I don't like chores.
I'm turning off the TV.
I don't want to fold these.
I don't care. You have to get them done if you want to watch the TV show. So
I don't want these.
Get the towels folded and you can watch the show. Otherwise, we're not going to watch the TV. I'm sorry. So
I
get
don't
it done.
want to fold the towels.
Okay, so we have a wide range of comments again here. So some are saying to use empathy and give encouragement and wait until later, which is excellent. And then some are saying just kind of what they saw rather than what they would give as feedback. So here what I'm looking for is that you would wait to give feedback. So you wouldn't just jump in right now and give the staff member feedback. It's likely that your staff's emotions are high in this moment too, because they really want the individual to fold those towels. But later on, maybe 10, 15 minutes later, when things have cooled down a little bit, I would pull the staff member to the side and say, hey, I was observing you earlier, and I really want us to practice using empathy and encouragement. And within that, I want us to practice pivoting. I want us to go through this checklist together. We're going to avoid reacting to junk behavior. We're going to actively attend to something desirable, turn back to the person within 10 seconds, repeat, and avoid coercion. And I would give an example. I would go model that with this individual that's sitting here on the couch. I would say, here's what that looks like. And I would take the towels with me, and I would model what it is I want staff to do. And then I would go to staff and say, okay, now I want you to practice that with me, and then give feedback, rather than being coercive to staff and saying, I just observed you with Sarah here sitting on the couch, and you used a ton of coercion. You said, I don't care, turn off the TV, you have to fold the towels, get the towels. That would just create a very negative interaction with your staff person. It's much better to model and show them what it is you were looking for. And the reason being, supervision and coaching is a hot situation. Most people are nervous being watched, and most people are nervous getting feedback. Questions should gently inform and lead a person to better understanding what it is they should be doing. We need to listen to what obstacles or barriers the staff is trying to overcome. We need to empathize with what's being experienced when trying to implement a skill. And we need to use encouragement to increase their confidence. Supervisors should always treat staff like professionals, remembering to use the skills of open-ended questions, listening, empathy, and encouragement. Again, we're not always going to want to strive for an environment, or we're not always going to get an environment that is free of coercion, but we need to remember that most people are nervous being watched. Some have a difficult time with receiving feedback, especially for missteps. Therefore, we need to really, really always treat supervision like a hot situation and gently lead them to better understanding rather than being critical and using coercion ourselves. And then something we tend to forget is that supervisors need coaching as well. So this will lead to an increased use of observations, increased use of positive feedback, decreased use of negative feedback, and less call-ins and turnover with your supervisors. I have done a lot of supervisory training with organizations, and the data shows that we do have less turnover, that there is increased use of positive feedback and decreased coercive interactions with staff. And it's not just the data that's interesting, but it's the social validity from the supervisors and the staff. So supervisors have told us that following this model has been very helpful, has had a big impact, improved their feedback. They've said it's really easy to do, that it's improved their supervisees' behavior, and the big thing here is that they have a better relationship with their staff. And then the direct support professionals have said that the change in their supervisor's feedback has had significant impact, it's really easy to be given, that they have improved competency themselves, and that they have a better relationship with their supervisor. So if you don't provide supervision regularly and you're only giving supervision when someone does something wrong, you're going to end up with a whole host of problem situations. Your staff's going to be dissatisfied, your individuals are going to be dissatisfied, your behavior support plan's not going to be implemented correctly. If you're a behavior analyst working with staff, you're going to have frequent call-ins. Staff are going to avoid you. Think about the effects of coercion. They're going to get even, avoid, escape. So that's just something to think about in regard to making sure you're providing supervision frequently. So some things for you to think about if you're new to providing supervision or new to providing frequent, regular supervision would be to create an action plan. If you're not sure what an action plan is, hop on our website and look at the previously recorded webinar. We go over that and think about who will coach staff regularly. If it's not their direct supervisor, maybe you find a mentor that can assist, and then how they will coach, how you're going to train your coaches or your supervisors, and what data should be collected. If coaching is not working, then try a different coaching strategy. Just make sure you're taking data and listening to what it is your data is telling you. Again, utilize checklists for skills and have a record of when coaching occurs and the type of feedback given. So the interesting thing about coaching data that I've found is that the effects of coaching and supervision are delayed. And so if you are providing frequent supervision to your staff, you're not going to see an effect in their behavior immediately, but after about 2 weeks is when you're going to see an increase in whatever skill it is you were coaching. The interesting part too is that when you see a decrease in your coaching, there's also a decrease in the skill being implemented correctly. And then these are some of the references used to create this training. More references. And if you have questions, feel free to contact any of us here on the statewide tiered supports team, Kathleen Depler, Dr. Terry Rogers, or myself, Ree Evans. We would be more than happy to answer any questions. And we have a couple of minutes left, so if you have any questions you'd like me to answer today, just go ahead and pop those in the chat box. Thank you. All right, so a lot of you guys are asking whether the PowerPoint will be available to you. It should be on the webinar website by the end of the week, and for those of you that are tiered supports consultants, it will be on our SharePoint, and I'll send out a link to that for you. And someone asks, how do you approach coaching when instruction is coming from two different sources? For example, tools and a BSP which says something different. I would say that if tools is being implemented at the organization or in the home, then the BSP really needs to be person-centered. And by person-centered, it shouldn't just focus on the individual. It needs to focus on the environment and context in which that individual lives. And so if tools is something that caregivers are expected to use, the BSP really needs to reflect that as well. So I would suggest that the BSP be revised. Yes, consistency, Penny, thank you. Okay, and the suggested minimum and maximum time to wait to give feedback for the negative feedback or the corrective feedback would be, I would wait until the hot situation is over, whatever occurred in the environment. So say, a client or an individual was yelling at the staff and the staff yelled back. It's likely that the staff is aware that they should not have done that and is also in an emotional state right now. So I would wait until it's no longer a hot situation and then give feedback then. So really it's being able to have the skill to read your staff and know what's going on, if they are in a spot to hear you or not. Because if they're in a hot situation still, no matter what you say or how you try and teach, they're not going to hear what it is you're saying. All right, thank you guys for coming today. If you have any other questions, then please feel free to email me. I'm more than happy to answer them. Thank you. Have a good day.